Everything changed in a matter of seconds. The confetti fell, the Lombardi Trophy was raised into the stadium lights, and the Seattle Seahawks cemented themselves as the undisputed kings of the NFL. It was the culmination of blood, sweat, and tactical genius. But in this league, the moment you reach the mountaintop is the exact moment a massive target is placed squarely on your back. Welcome to NFL Nexus, your home for the deepest, most cinematic football deep dives. I am thrilled to have you here for this explainer. If you want to support our work, hit subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, comment on what you think of Seattle's offseason, and support the channel by becoming a channel member. Today, we are breaking down the anatomy of a dynasty. We are going under the hood of Mike Macdonald and John Schneider's masterpiece to see exactly how they are managing the 2026 offseason. Because building a champion, that's brutally hard, but defending it, that requires surgical precision. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the Seahawks master plan. First, defending the title. Second, the rise of a literal one-of-one safety. Third, choosing culture over free agency. And finally, dealing with rival threats. 4 chapters, 1 goal, the 2026 repeat. Chapter 1. Defending the championship in the 2026 offseason. You know, the harsh reality of winning a Super Bowl is that your roster immediately becomes the most expensive, highly coveted, and relentlessly poached commodity in all of sports. There's literally no time for victory laps. Mike Macdonald and John Schneider didn't even have time to let the champagne dry before they had to turn the page to the 2026 repeat bid. The clock is already ticking. To truly understand the gravity of this offseason, you have to look at the massive tectonic shifts happening right now on their defensive depth chart. They are actively transitioning into a repeat bid by doing something incredibly difficult and, honestly, incredibly risky. They are letting key, expensive veterans walk in free agency and transferring the immense weight of championship expectation directly onto emerging, unproven young talent. Take Boye Mafe, for example. He was an absolutely crucial piece of this championship run. His pressure rates, those critical playoff sacks, they were the engine of this defensive front. But the brutal, unforgiving business of the NFL dictated his departure. He just signed a massive 3-year, $60 million deal with the Cincinnati Bengals. You cannot simply replace that kind of production by plugging in a new body. It requires a complete shift in defensive philosophy. It means empowering the youth that Macdonald has been quietly, methodically developing in the shadows. The margin for error here is razor thin. One bad draft class, one missed evaluation, and the dynasty crumbles before it even begins.
And that brings us to the first massive pillar of Seattle's 2026 strategy. Section 2, the one-of-one safety, Nick Emanwori. We really need to talk about a player who is completely, fundamentally redefining his position.
When you want to know how good a young player actually is, you don't listen to the media. You don't listen to the talking heads. You listen to the veterans in his own locker room, the men who go to war with him every single Sunday. Listen to this glowing praise from starting safety Julian Love. He said, "He's so special. He's one of one in this league. We give him comparisons to a lot of different players, but nothing is what he does." That is a cinematic endorsement right there. One of one. In an NFL filled with the greatest, fastest, strongest athletes on the planet, his own peers are looking at him and saying, there's absolutely no blueprint for what this kid brings to the field. He is a total glitch in the matrix. Look at the sheer, undeniable gravity of these numbers. These are Emanwori's rookie stats from the 2025 season. A season where he battled injuries due to his violently physical play style, limiting him to just 14 games. 11 pass breakups, 9 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, an interception. Let's pause on that for a second. 9 tackles for loss. From a defensive back. That is elite, downhill linebacker production operating out of the secondary. He isn't just participating in the defense. He is dictating the geometry of the football field on every single snap. It's really no wonder he finished second in the voting for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's a heat-seeking missile playing in a secondary that already strikes fear into opposing quarterbacks. This illustrates exactly why Mike Macdonald's defensive scheme is practically uncrackable right now. Emanwori represents the ultimate schematic cheat code. In run defense, his combination of elite strength and explosive athleticism allows him to play right in the box. He thrives in the mud. He takes on pulling guards and outright wins. But then you look at his pass coverage. He's an excellent zone defender who showed massive weekly improvement in man coverage throughout 2025. Quarterbacks have to identify exactly where he is on every single play because he can blow up an inside run on first down and then trail a deep crossing route 40 yards down the field on second down. If he maximizes his talent in year 2, like his veterans predict, we are looking at a surefire All-Pro. But having young, explosive stars on rookie deals is only half the battle. The other half? It's retaining the blood and guts cornerstones of your culture when the time actually comes to pay them. Chapter 3. Culture over free agency. Enter Derek Hall.
$42 million. That is the massive 3-year extension Hall just signed to remain in Seattle through the 2029 season. It comes with $21 million completely guaranteed, and with performance-based incentives, it can max out at a staggering $46 million. This is franchise-altering money. It's the kind of contract that secures generational wealth, cements a legacy, and completely shifts the defensive dynamic for the Seahawks.
Let's look at the financial architecture here because it's pretty fascinating. Hall was drafted 37th overall back in 2023, making an average of about $2.2 million a year. Now, he jumps to $14 million annually, making him the 33rd highest-paid edge rusher in the entire National Football League. But here is the crazy twist. His individual pass rush stats actually dipped last year. He had a breakout sophomore campaign in 2024 with 8 sacks, but in 2025, operating in a reduced rotational role behind guys like Uchenna Nwosu and DeMarcus Lawrence, he dropped to just 2 sacks. So why the massive, earth-shattering payday? Because his hidden impact is monumental. His edge-setting run defense is a foundational element of this scheme. He's the anchor of a Seahawks unit that allowed just 3.7 yards per carry, a unit that hasn't allowed a single 100-yard rusher in a franchise record 29 consecutive games. 29 games. Think about the running backs in this league. Think about the physical toll it takes to hold the line for 29 straight weeks. That level of historic consistency does not happen without players like Derek Hall, who completely embrace the unglamorous, brutal, violent work in the trenches.
But to truly understand Derek Hall, and why this extension matters so incredibly much to the soul of this team, we have to strip away the millions of dollars. We have to look past the bright lights and the NFL spotlight. We have to look at the human being. Derek Hall was a baby given less than a 1% chance of survival.
This is a story of absolute, unyielding defiance. Hall was born prematurely at just 23.5 weeks. He weighed 2 pounds 9 ounces. He could literally fit in the palm of a hand. For the first 5 months of his life, his mother sat beside a NICU incubator as he fought a terrifying battle against bleeding on the brain, jaundice, severe asthma, and underdeveloped lungs. He wasn't supposed to be here. The doctors said he wasn't supposed to survive, let alone grow into a 250-pound, elite, world-class athlete. And so, when you fast forward to June 2026, and his mother Stacy and sister Rihanna take a late-night flight all the way from Mississippi to Seattle just to sit in an office and watch him sign a $42 million contract, it is profoundly, deeply emotional. It is the culmination of a lifelong fight against impossible odds. The sheer resilience he shows taking on 300-pound offensive linemen, that wasn't built in a weight room. That was forged in a NICU incubator.
So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. Derek Hall could have waited. He could have tested the treacherous open waters of free agency next spring, where a desperate franchise with endless cap space would have likely offered him even more money. But he didn't. Reporter Greg Bell summed it up perfectly, noting that staying in the Seahawks locker room and culture was more important to Hall than chasing every last available dollar. Hall himself said that while the money enhances the job, it's about the pure love of the game. It's about the unwavering trust he feels in McDonald and Schneider's pristine organization. He took this deal early because he believes in the dynasty. He believes in the brotherhood they are building in the Pacific Northwest. He wants to be part of history.
But a dynasty cannot survive in a vacuum. You can build the perfect culture, you can assemble the perfect young core, you can sign the perfect contracts. But eventually, you have to look outside your own walls. The NFL is an arms race, and the rest of the league is doing everything in their power to tear Seattle down from the throne. Chapter 4. Dealing with rival threats.
Which brings us to the most urgent, terrifying question of the offseason. What about the rest of the NFC West? Because while Seattle has been quietly retaining culture pieces and drafting physical freaks, a dark, heavy cloud is forming down in Los Angeles. The NFC West is a historical bloodbath. It is a division where championships literally go to die. And the Rams are making moves right now that could completely alter the balance of power in the entire conference.
The Los Angeles Rams just sent absolute shockwaves through the league by acquiring 2-time Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns. That along is a waking nightmare for Geno Smith and the Seahawks offensive line. But the nightmare might just be getting started. Following the trade, rumblings exploded that the legendary Aaron Donald, who retired after the 2023 season, might actually be coming back.
Donald reportedly texted Pat McAfee that he wants to see if that fire can light back up. Rams general manager Les Snead publicly stated that for the first time, Donald is actually having second thoughts about retirement. Snead pointed out that when Donald left, his tank was completely full. And terrifyingly, Snead bet that the 35-year-old future Hall of Famer hasn't missed a single workout since he retired. Imagine an offensive line having to block Myles Garrett on the edge and a rested, hungry Aaron Donald right up the middle. That is an apocalyptic scenario for the defending champions. It is the kind of defensive front that ruins seasons.
The tension surrounding this potential pairing is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Every quarterback in the NFC is sweating. But leave it to Seahawks receiver and former Ram Cooper Kupp to provide a little levity to the situation. When asked about his old teammate returning to his division rival, Kupp deadpanned, "I texted Aaron and said, don't even think about it. I left it at that, so we're good. I'm not worried about it. I already nipped it in the bud." It's a hilarious response, but underneath the joke is the undeniable cold truth. Nobody in Seattle wants to see number 99 line up against them twice a year again, let alone right next to Myles Garrett.
And that brings us to the ultimate million-dollar question for the 2026 season. Have the Seattle Seahawks built a culture strong enough, deep enough, and resilient enough to hold off the super team threats rising in Los Angeles and successfully repeat as Super Bowl champions? They have the defensive mastermind. They have the one-of-one unicorns like Nick Emanwari. They have the emotional, blood-and-guts heartbeat players like Derek Hall locking in for the long haul. The anatomy of this dynasty is undeniably strong, but the true test is just beginning. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts on Seattle's strategy in the comments down below. Remember to subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and support the channel by becoming a channel member to get more deep dive explainers just like this one. Thanks for learning with me today on NFL Nexus, and I'll see you in the next one.